Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Unpopular Opinions with me, Randy Prizzle. How you guys all doing out there? Let's get on to the unpopular opinions of today's episode. The first one we come to: streaming services killed movie nights and made everything bland as hell. Now, I do agree in certain terms where no one wants to go to a cinema anymore and pay the ticket prices to watch a film. Everybody would rather see them on Netflix or other streaming services because they're easy to access. You don't pay that much for them and they're just easy to go and see them in full HD. You don't really have to take a trip to the cinema to just check it out. So I do agree in some terms where I do think it is killing the movie business in terms of obviously the cinematic point of view when you want to see them in the cinema, because obviously all you do need to do is just wait probably for about a year or two when that film has been released, and then you could just watch it on the streaming services. There literally isn't a problem there, but I do think it's a problem in general for the people that are running cinemas, because let's be honest there, maybe down the line in about a decade from now there may not be cinemas anymore. Let's think about that. They all might just be jumping to streaming services and you've got no cinemas left, so there'll be no time to go and sit in screens, throw popcorn around and just watch a film. Well, that's for the youngsters, they'll be throwing the popcorn around, but for me, I'll be trying to munch them and still. But there won't be chances to do that much anymore. They'll exist and just go out of business. So I do think sometimes we do need to make sure that we don't just rely on streaming services. We do go to a cinema and check out a screening or a preview. But I hear it, it's hard times, you know what I mean? It doesn't help the government is raising prices of everything, so it's peak. The next one we come to: self-diagnostic is invalid and we need to stop pretending otherwise. I do think, to self-diagnose yourself is probably a bit problematic. I do think obviously no one is a qualified doctor. No one really knows what is going on, but you just try to look at some sort of something where you can find and hope that there's a symptom that tells you what you potentially could be suffering from. So it is slightly helpful. I say very much is, because sometimes it could tell you something and it could also be very misleading, where to the point where you're thinking, oh yeah, I think I've got this, and then you've looked and you checked again and you actually haven't got that. The doctor has told you, you don't have this, you have this. And you're like, what? I thought I had this. I checked my symptoms online and it told me all of this. So I would say to people, don't listen to everything online tells you about symptoms and that. Don't self-diagnose yourself because it goes horribly wrong. Next one. It's not more expensive to eat healthy. That's an absolute lie. An absolute lie. It is very expensive to eat healthy. Trust me, you know what I mean? Buying fruits and vegetables ain't cheap as they used to be anymore. The prices are skyrocketing, but especially if the people are vegetarians or vegans, it obviously is going to cost them a lot more to buy products of that brand, of that specifics. They're probably going to buy stuff to make from scratch that are vegan or vegetarian. So it does cost a lot, do you know what I mean? To be in that bracket where you want to eat healthier. When you see junk food around, and listen, you go to Morley's, you get chicken and chips, it's about six quid for that. You're probably going to the supermarket and buying stuff, and literally a pack of whatever you need in terms of your whole ingredients probably will cost you more than £10. So the math ain't math in there. Healthy food, it costs a lot to buy healthy food. So it is very expensive, especially if you're living here in the UK. Trust me, daddy, it's expensive. Next one we come to: being friends with your co-workers is 100% normal and it makes sense. I'm a bit 50-50 with that one still, because I've have friends that are co-workers I've spoken to and we keep in contact, but at the same time, they're not your, let's say, proper friends. Like, they're not people you probably would say bring to your wedding, or I don't know, one of them gathering events. You probably don't have a wedding, but still, one of them gathering events or something that's major in your life, you will obviously trust your friends that you've been to school with, or people like that you really have a real deep emotional bond with. That's not saying that you can't be friends with your co-workers. You can, but obviously that emotional bond is going to be very different than obviously with someone you've grown up with, or someone you've made lifelong friends with, or met in college, uni, or wherever, and you've built that friendship over time. So it could be a bit different. It may take longer for you guys to, like, you know, have that bond and do the Dilla, you son of a, you know, all of that. So, but I hear it. Being friends with your co-workers, you can be friends with your co-workers. It is normal, but at the same time, you have to be very wary of which co-workers you're around. Some of them could be in it for some wrong reasons. But anyways, not saying the people that I know, not them, but you know. But anyways, next one. I don't think it should be required for couples to provide meals to wedding vendors like photographers. I do think, like, if you kind of bought the photographer there or bought the videographer there, then you should give them something. I'm not saying give them food, but give them like a drink or something, or some snacks, like something. I know you're paying them for the services, but still, it's like common courtesy. You kind of bought that person there and everybody around is eating and that person can't eat. That's a bit mad still, do you know what I mean? Because then it's like you're saying to that person, well, I'm just here, I just have you here to do the videographer, which I understand, but at the same time, it's just a bit of courtesy, just to say, you know what, everybody around is munching, you go and grab yourself a plate. I wouldn't want the videographer or the camera person to feel left out. So for me, I'll say, yeah, go and get yourself a plate, man. It's fine, because, you know, I'm paying you still. You're part of this whole big wedding and all of the celebrations. So you should be getting something as well from this whole joyous day. So you know what I mean? But that's it, guys, for this episode of Unpopular Opinions. Till next Unpopular Opinions. But if you're feeling this episode, any of the previous episodes, you know what to do below, all of that. I will give my opinions and I'll react later on. I'll see you later.